So we're discussing the Prime Minister's suggestion that we teach our children maths until they're 18. And we did a poll on the website, on LinkedIn yesterday, and the jury is out. Vicky, that's spot on. I don't know, I think I might have mentioned this before, but Rory Sutherland is I think is the chairman of Ogilvy, and he once told the story. He said, isn't it odd? He said, when the creative department want to go and do something creative, they have to go to the finance team to get it funded. But when the finance team wants to do something financial, they don't have to go to the creative team to check that it's sufficiently creative. So yeah, it's and you're absolutely right. I've seen it, and there's study after study that suggests that if you're involved in a creative pursuit, it benefits everything else you do. So, but that's enough from me. Mark, you have a hand up.
Yeah, I feel pretty strongly about this, but in school, I think I was useless at maths. And I had a really inspiring maths teacher, a young guy, pianist, I have to say. You know, he was really engaging, but for whatever reason, you know, it didn't chime with me. I found it very difficult. And I had the same teacher in the sixth form for numeracy. And because he had the freedom, he applied all of the numeracy to performing arts. So we were doing budgets for school shows. And I went from getting an F at GCSE to a distinction because it was contextual. And my concern with this sort of blanket idea that maths or numeracy, you know, should be studied, I would have been terrified, because I would be thinking, therefore, that going on to college would mean having to be good at maths. And I don't think it would have completely put me off. And what he means by maths worries me, because I think we all know that there's, I think you used that phrase, Vicky, but there's functional maths, numeracy, that helps you with the day-to-day business, and there's maths which is more elegant and more artistic, but you can't even touch that if this sort of functional needs to be. And it just makes so much sense to me that you know, we need to be good at a certain level of maths, but who's going to decide what that level is? Because there's definitely already a hierarchy within the mind of government about what subjects are important, you know, those which help you compete with Chat GPT in the future, and those which are soft and therefore can be easily jettisoned, like most of the arts, unfortunately. And that's what concerns me, is that when you make that in the hierarchy, you're basically saying that's more important. And of course it's important. I'm not even suggesting it's not important. It is, and I'm glad I had a more positive experience. And I don't fear maths. I certainly wouldn't like to retake my maths GCSE, by the way. That still sounds pretty terrifying. But I think what worries me is it reinforces the idea that at that age, people are already being asked to make massive life decisions about the direction they want to go in. I mean, I really had no idea what I wanted to do with my life until I was 30. I mean, I know I did things before that, but by forcing me to do something that I was abysmal at, I can't imagine the consequences of also feeling like I'm not as good as everyone else going on to, you know, to do that. Anytime they're telling me that I have to, it brings out that stubborn creative person in me that wants to sort of, you know, smash things up and call that art.
No, that's great. I'm reminded of something I did by accident when I was teaching. I used to teach at Pollitt Court, which is the prep school of St Paul's School in Barnes on the River Thames. And I used to teach drums to 7 to 11-year-olds, and it was during that period, they would have to take their options and decide which subjects they were going to drop. And one of my young pupils was in quite some distress because he had no idea, and he was under pressure. And I said, so he stopped the drum lesson, and I said, look, right, 2 pieces of paper. I'd like you to write all your subjects down on both pieces of paper. On the one on the left, I want you to write them in the order in which you enjoyed them. And on the right, I want you to write down the order in which you're told you're good at them. And let's have a look at what appears at the top of both lists. And it helped him enormously. I was asked to go and speak to the headmaster about a week later, and I thought, oh dear, am I in trouble? And he said, I had a call from a parent saying that the drum teacher was helping him with his options. I said, yeah. And he said, genius, we're going to use it throughout the school. So it helped. Sorry, I'm nattering on too much. Janet, you've got a hand up.
Oh, hello. Yes, I have got maths A-level, and I don't support this at all, because I think anything useful in maths is probably taught up to about year 9. You can do your percentages and your adding and your times and anything that I've used in work, and I work out business plans, and I have to do the cost effectiveness of any projects that we do. I think you know all that by then. And I had to help my daughter during the pandemic in years 10 and 11. And it was so hard and so abstract, and it was there at the back of my head, and we were finding X all the time, and we found it, and we learned a ridiculous amount about triangles and circles. So the idea of now going on to do A-level, it's so abstract and so complex. In fact, over the summer, I found my maths A-level paper, which I was able to leave the room with, and I literally didn't understand a word of it. I couldn't work out any of it. But obviously at the time, I really enjoyed it. But there's no more value in me studying that as to studying any other subject. I enjoyed it, I did it, and it's fine. But its usefulness, it's not more useful than any other subject. That's my opinion. And if it's not the way you think, if you're not interested in finding X and all of those things, it's like you said, if somebody tells you to do something you're not interested in, it's just really hard. And so my daughter's done her GCSE, she's now picked her A-levels, and she has picked art subjects, and she's just so much happier, because you haven't got those days where you go, oh God, it's geography and chemistry today. And so she's happy, and she's doing really, really well. And so what would be the point in her going to do more about triangles and Pythagoras and whatever? So I don't support it at all, even though as a subject, I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Janet. Rob's just posted a link to Ken Robinson talk from 17 years ago, when this was still a problem. It's an excellent talk. Do have a look. I watched it again last night, by the way, just as a coincidence. And he relates the story of a young girl they're in art, they're doing a painting thing, and the teacher wanders over and has a look and says, oh, what are you painting there? And she said, that's God. He said, no, that can't be right. Nobody knows what God looks like. And she said, they will soon. And the talk is really about that kind of childish capacity to not be afraid of being wrong. On a talk last year, we had Alistair on. You may have seen him, and he introduced the concept of Shoshan, the Buddhist concept Shoshan, which is effectively how to approach things with a child's mind. Because ironically, the more we know about certain subjects, the more limited we are in our capacity to be creative in that sphere. So that talk is a belter. So make sure you grab that. If you haven't seen it, please do. And Rory Sutherland as well on creativity is just genius. So, Anand, you have a hand up.
Yeah, just building on what Jan was saying. So you're talking about finding X all the time. It reminds me, there's a book that kind of talks about kids' answers to, like, kids when they're given their answers to like math question. And the most inspiring one I saw was find X. Someone just circles X and goes, there it is. And you're like, if I was a math teacher, I would frown. But if you take a different perspective, you're like, well, you solved the problem, haven't you? You've got to be applauded for that.
Yeah.
So I really see the value in having that creativity. But where I'm torn is that in my day job, I am a computer scientist, so I compete with ChatGPT. So I need that abstract level of math to be able to do that. And at that level of abstraction, what math becomes to me is not a different subject. It is in the sense that it is symbols and understanding what they mean. So it is very much like English. I would hate to think what my life would be like if I couldn't communicate to people, if I didn't have the language. So math I see as a language. I don't want math to kill people's creativity. And I agree with what's been said before. People need to have a functional level of math because it limits what you can do in life. But everybody doesn't need that really advanced abstraction if that's not where they want to go in life. So I think people should have the freedom to choose rather than being almost forced upon them because someone thinks it's going to be valuable. Because what's the point of wasting 2 years of someone's life if they could have done something else?
And it's the way we're measured as well, isn't it? There was another cartoon I saw recently, was you don't judge an elephant by its capacity to climb a tree, which one of the other ones I heard was lovely. Somebody asked a child, what's the capital of England? And after a while she said E, which I thought was great. There's the sideways thinking. My daughter and I were lying in bed on a Sunday morning many years ago when she was very young, and we were staring at the white ceiling, and she said, let's play I Spy. And I thought, really? All we can see is the white ceiling. And she said, I'll go first. I spy with my little eye something beginning with U. I thought, really? Where? And she wouldn't tell me. And I kept guessing and kept getting it wrong. And she said, us. And I thought, it's that kind of sideways, allowing those things to happen. It's just great. Nadia, you got your hand up.
Yes, yeah. The reason I'm unlike Janet. I totally agree that we should be including maths and perhaps forcing some of these core fundamental subjects. The reason I believe that is because our IQ peaks at around 20 years old. And for 18, and even up to that age, I think we're still exploring what we like. So we're finding ourselves. What do we like? What do we not like? I loved your exercise with the child, Mark, with saying, what do you like? That's fantastic. I still believe our brain needs uncomfortable experiences. And it's a bit like if we get too comfortable with everything we like, we're not really optimizing our expansive human capability either. And maths and topics like that actually help our critical thinking and analytical thinking. And one thing I know is that I joined an oil company when I first graduated. They were big on analytical thinking, and without them I would never have developed those skills, but they have been so useful in my own performance. And they say IQ is towards performance, while it's EQ is towards your networking and relationship capabilities. So for me, that's where I come from on the topic. And I sincerely believe that absolutely you must do topics like that to the age of 20.
Yeah, I think if we were going to drop Rishi a line with our collective view on the matter, it might well be that basic numeric literacy is essential, and people gain that at different ages. So this blanket do it till you're 18, it may well be that somebody who's 15 or 16 has acquired the basic numeric literacy that they're likely to need, as Janet was saying, for the work they're going to do. But it might take others. It would certainly have taken. I'm still learning, right? So but I think it's the sort of, it's that typical kind of catch-all 18 sort of thing, get to a certain level, don't you may, that may not be long enough for some people, and it might be far too long for others. So
yeah, it's true, you're right. I mean, even if if research and studies show that humans average their peak IQ skills by 20 years old, that's probably where the 18 cutoffs come in. But no, I know what you mean, but I don't think it should be much sooner, really, because the human brain is still developing even up to 35 years old, as you say, and maybe even now. But critical thinking in life also prevents you from having limiting beliefs and also helps you in optimizing your performance. And it's interesting because, yes, I also know that creative people are considered better at problem solving. But it's interesting, how is it Mozart or one of the great musician composers was brilliant at maths as well as music.
Yeah. And there are some contemporary
they are
composers who
connected.
Rob will remember. Was it Berg or Webern who composes based on number and maths?
It sounds likely. Sounds highly likely. I think you're absolutely right. There's such a crossover, isn't there, from maths and music? But I mean, when this came up, you know, that he was extending the age from 16 to 18, I thought initially, I just thought, well, what's another 3 years going to make? What difference is that going to make? Sorry, 2. So
yeah, get that.
was that intentional?
Sorry. 16, 17, 18 is 3, right?
Yeah.
So and then I thought, well, the arts is being baited into responding in a kind of negative, polarized way. I think the arts and creative industry should go right back at him and say, we're totally into this and we're ready to help you, because boy, do you need creativity to keep maths interesting, and to entice an extended, you know, like Vicky was saying a moment ago, you know, we have a role to play in this, because what the you know, Tory press expects is that the art's going to kick back and say, how dare you, when we should go, brilliant, let's help you, because you're not very good at it, are you? And that would be the best way. I got to jump out. See you guys. I got another one at 2:30.
Thanks, Rob. See you. I should let you all go. We're approaching the 1:30. So if nothing else, you might need to nip to the loo. So thank you all very much for joining our after party. I'll stop the recording now. There we go.